Um, Today we're going to talk about life here on the reservation before we had gaming. And I go back to when I was a very young person living on the farm on Second Ridge, which is now called Seminary Road. And we lived in a log house with no water except what you carried by a pail to the house. And of course, you had to have an outdoor privy or an outhouse. Summer and winter, that's what was utilized. And we burned wood for heat in the house. We also burned wood for cooking in the cooking stove, in the cooking range. So all of those things were hands-on. You had to work from morning till night. Mother did all the cooking, started breakfast maybe about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. When you finished with breakfast, that required doing the dishes on a table with a dishpan, and then going right into lunch, making lunch. We called it dinner at the time. And from there, everybody ate dinner, and now we had another big batch of dishes to do because there were 13 in the house. And from there, it was right away preparing the night meal. There were no fast foods. So all 3 meals every day and any lunches in between had to be made in the kitchen at home. And baking bread. We always baked bread, sometimes as many as 24 loaves a week, and made coffee cakes and anything else, cinnamon buns. All that was made at home. We probably only had one pair of shoes for the whole school year, and except that we had old shoes for working in the bar. And we had to change them when coming into the house, leave them at the door and come into the house. And our school clothes were purchased probably in August. And we might have 2 or 3 dresses and a sweater and your outer clothes for winter because it was snow. We had to travel in the snow. And it was very, very cold in the wintertime. There was no heat upstairs in the house. So if we took a cup of water up to drink at night in the dead of winter, there might be a small layer of ice on your cup when you got up in the morning. So that would be below freezing in where we slept. So those were the things that we had to live with when we were children. We were a farm family, and there were several Oneida families who were farm families. And so we milked cows in the morning and night before and after school. We helped with all the chores. Everything had to be done by ourselves. We had to learn how to use farm tools. pitchforks and manure forks. You had to get the manure out of the barn, so that was another part of it, daily chore. And we helped with all of the harvesting of all of the farm crops. Like we dug potatoes in the fall, we dug all the other root crops in the fall, and helped harvest them, put them in the bags, and bring them down to the cellar. We depended all on our own food and not on anybody else to provide it for us, or we grew it ourselves, and if we had more than we needed, we would trade with a neighbor for something that they had that we needed. So if we had a lot of carrots, we might trade a couple of bags of carrots for something they had, potatoes or rutabagas or some other kind of crop that they had. That happened quite often. We had all of our own eggs. We had 200 chickens, so we had our own food, like butchering chickens, butchering hogs, even beef. We did all of that. Geese and ducks, we did all of that ourselves. We did not depend on anyone else. We did it was rather self-contained. And there were a lot of Oneida families who did that. Almost every Oneida family had a large garden, and they also, almost everybody had chickens, so that they fed themselves. They learned how to learned how to propagate animals and vegetables and things so they could be self-sustaining. And we were often that. We did not, there was very little money used because we had very little money in the first place. There was very little money used to purchase any conveniences of any kind, or any new clothes, or things of that nature. I think we went to a movie maybe one time a year, and it cost 10 cents. But first of all, you didn't have gas to go there. So you had to have the gas and a car, and then a lot of people would get in a car because there was only one car per family, if that. And everybody had to be their own mechanic, so that you had to learn how to change tires and how to patch inner tubes and all of that stuff yourself. And everybody in the household knew, when they grew up old enough, learned how to do those things. We went to school. We were 2 miles from the school, no matter which way you went. If you went to Silvery Summit, or if you came to the Catholic school in Oneida, we were right in the middle, so we were 2 miles either way. Or we were 2 miles from the bus, because the buses did not come to the house. You had to get yourself to the bus. So we walked. And most of the time, it was good weather, but a lot of times it was inclement weather, downpours, sometime with rain, a lot of snow in the wintertime, and it was really, sometimes it was scary, because a little kid in the first grade walking in below zero weather in the wintertime was dangerous. So sometimes I carried my brother on my back, who was in first grade when I was in fifth grade. So, no transportation. None of these things were provided by the tribe, or none of them were provided by a county or town service. We had to do everything ourselves, and if there was a problem, we had to figure it out ourselves.